So I went to study this topic and understand it. I ended up traveling to Iraq. Now, Iraq is an interesting case study of this because they used to not have addiction, really. And a lot of that is because Saddam ruled with an iron fist. There's no drugs getting in the country. The U.S. ends up invading and, throwing him out. And because of that war, you have a lot of people who are in trauma. They have problems. The economy's in ruin. They've lived through a war. And then what happens is that Syria falls and becomes a narco state, and they start pumping out a drug called Captagon. Have you heard of this?
No.
So it is analogous to methamphetamine. It's a pill. They put a lot of stimulants in it. Now, Syria produces, no shit, billions and billions of pills that are moving around the Middle East right now. Like they just busted a big shipment. I can't remember where it was coming through in the Middle East, but it was like $1 billion some odd worth of Captagon. So this drug is sweeping across the Middle East. And so what happens in Iraq is that you have a population who has a lot of pain, a lot of problems in their life. There's not many outlets for those problems. And then you have a substance come in that solves problems in the short term, and you tend to see addiction spike in that country. So and it was a wacky trip too. I had, I need to get a fixer or whatever. And I land on this guy and he sends me this email. He goes, okay, I know you're here to study Captagon. Here are all the groups we're meeting with, the precise times we're going to meet them. Here's the hotel you're going to be staying in. It's the nicest, most secure hotel in Baghdad. I'm going to pick you up in this, secure top of the line SUV, blah, blah, blah. You're good to go. It's like, okay. So I land there. My man picks me up in a 10-year-old beat to hell Hyundai base model, drops me off at my hotel, which is this sort of hole in the wall, just bombed out hotel. Picks me up the next day. I'm like, okay, let's get our meetings going. And he goes, oh, no, those are just proposals. The itinerary was proposed. So this guy totally bullshitted me on like every fact of this.
Oh, no.
And I'm in Baghdad, and I'm like, oh, my God, this is going to be a long week.
How long ago was this?
This was last summer.
Oh, boy.
Yeah. So I'm going, all right, well, let's figure this out. He goes, no, don't worry about it. Just, worry about other things, like what we're going to have for lunch. I'll figure this out for you. I'm like, okay, whatever, dude. So the first few days, we're just madly driving around Baghdad in this dude's, neither secure nor top of the line Hyundai the whole time. And he's texting and calling people. He's got 2 phones. He's texting as he's driving. And he ends up getting in like 2 car accidents, doesn't even stop the fucking car, dude. He just like banks off a car and just rolls down my window and yells some shit in Arabic. I'm like, what do you say to those people? He goes, I said, why are you in my way?
Oh, boy.
Like, okay. But just as this guy's sort of grift, worked on me, it starts to work on other people. So he somehow talks us into this police compound on the outskirts of town where they hold the big drug smugglers in the country and different terrorists. So I talked to the police there. We talked to some of the people in the prison. Then he ends up getting this sort of off-the-books meeting with 2 Iraqi intelligence officers who work on the border of Syria, fighting Captagon as it comes through. And they told me just crazy ways that people get the drug over. So a lot of times the government, because it's all controlled by the government, by the way, will hire farmers like shepherds and have them store the pills in the stomachs of sheep. So they'll open the stomach of the sheep, put the drugs in a bag, sew the sheep's stomach, and then have them just move across the border in the night. So if you're looking at them as an intelligence officer of the army, you're going, oh, it's just a shepherd. No, it turns out that actually they're drug smugglers.
And so these sheep are still alive?
Yeah, they're still alive.
And they just put in some sort of a bag that doesn't get broken down by the stomach acids?
Yeah, exactly.
Wow.
Yeah, it's crazy.
So they do surgery on the sheep.
Yeah.
Stuff the pills in there.
Yeah.
And just walk them through. Wow.
I mean, we're talking billions of these pills circulating in the Middle East.
Wow.
But
if it's the government that's moving them in.
The Syrian government. Yeah.
Oh.
So Syria is effectively a narco state now. So most of their, they make some crazy amount more money producing Captagon than they do all their legal exports combined. So what happens is that after the country fell, they took over the pharmaceutical plants, and the pills are all pumped out there now, and it's all controlled. Most of it is controlled by what's called the 4th Division, which is sort of akin to our sort of Navy SEALs, like this really elite military unit controls it all. And also like Hezbollah, which is been named a terror organization, is involved in the trade too. Eventually we get this meeting with the guy who's the head of psychiatry for all of Iraq. And basically what happens is I'm in the country going, okay, like nothing is really, this guy's just piecing together these kind of meetings as we go. And I track down a guy who's a journalist in the country, and I kind of tell him my situation. And he goes, call this guy. So my fixer calls the head of psychiatry, and the guy tells him immediately, just text me, whatever. So, okay. He starts texting with him, and my fixer starts smiling and goes, he'll take a meeting, but he thinks I'm another person with the same name, but he'll take the meeting. I'm like, wait, so he thinks we're someone else and we're going to this meeting? And my fixer's like, yeah. I'm like, I don't know, man. He goes, listen, he'll talk. He will talk. So we go to this damn meeting, and, we come in and the guy's kind of looking at us like, you're not who I expected. But we sit down with him, and I get him to, at first he's kind of trying to shoo us out, but I get him to start talking to us, and he echoed sort of the same that we've been talking about. He goes, look, like the brain disease model and this complex neuroscience around drug addiction is interesting. Obviously, the brain changes due to drugs, but
much better.
Yeah.
This is the thing. You can't concentrate when you have to pee. You're sitting there going, I can't get the words out.
Hey, man, I don't even know what I just said the last 30 minutes.
We were talking about alcoholism and drug addiction and whether or not it's a mental disease and this crazy drug in Iraq.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's
wild that I've never even heard of that before.
The amount of
Captagon, is that what you said? Captagon?
The amount of pills circulating in the Middle East. Yeah,
is that what it looks like? Do they have any of the images of it coming out of sheep guts?
I look for that. I mean,
I want to see that.
Smuggle it lots of different ways, apparently.
Yeah, it's got those. Okay, so you see the photo that we're on there? It's got those 2 crescent moons. Mm-hmm. They all tend to have that on them, and it's just a mix of. So it started in the 60s as a legal pharmaceutical drug, and I think they banned it in the 70s, or it might have been that. Yeah, I think mid 70s, because it worked too well. People were getting hooked on it, and it was, And then what had happened is that enough people, especially in the Middle East, were using it as a pharmaceutical that some drug gangs came in and started making it themselves. And now it's just slowly transitioned where Syria runs it all.